Facebook, ever tired of being blamed for every single piece of content that appears on this platform, is now giving away the task to a third-party body that I will personally be referring to, and based on my opinion, their censorship board. These are the people Facebook put in charge of deciding whether to delete controversial posts. The problem was, no matter what happens on Facebook, someone's going to get mad, right? And when the cultural right has very little power relative to the cultural left, Facebook bends the knee for the left. That's what tends to be happening. And this story was broken by Gizmodo, a more left-wing publication. Yes, Facebook is biased. Now, to avoid accusations of bias, because they're concerned about the endless controversy, they're going to appoint other people to deal with it. Facebook announced the first 20 members of its oversight board. The board is an independent body that can overturn the company's own content moderation decisions. Facebook said the board will begin hearing cases in the coming months. This way, when something negative appears on Facebook, they can say, hey, don't look at us, look at them. And then that governing body will just bend the knee as well. Now, ultimately, I do think the idea, it's actually not that bad, right? I'm being a bit facetious calling it their censorship board. I mean, they really will be removing stuff and they're probably going to be biased. But Facebook's decision making is based on their corporate interest, which means they're always going to favor the dominant cultural establishment, which is left-wing and Democrat. It just is. You know, Donald Trump may be the president, but cultural establishment certainly is on the left. By passing this off to a third party who isn't dependent on ad revenue and makes their decisions on their own, there's a potential risk of bias, could potentially make things worse. It really could maybe make things better. I think Twitter actually has a more fun idea. It's kind of stupid. Twitter tests telling users their tweet replies may be offensive. I actually kind of like the idea. Twitter is a cesspit. Everyone's just yelling at everybody else. Everyone's always mean and angry all the time. It's not so much about being offensive, but maybe it would be nice if Twitter was like, yo, why are you being such a mean person? Maybe people won't care. And let's be real, you're allowed to be a mean person. I got no issue with that. I'm just saying, like, I'm always shocked by, you know, for instance, when I went on the Rogan podcast, a lot of responses to my appearance were just so awful. Just like saying, Tim Pool is so dumb, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if I'm wrong, just let me know, man. Why are you so mad at me? Like, did I go on there and insult your mother or something? That's Twitter. It's like everybody's acting as though you personally spat on their mom's face. It's like, no, dude, if someone's got a bad idea, just talk to them. Like, I try to do good on Twitter. I try to be better. You know, I've tweeted some stuff and people have, like, I've quote tweeted people and then people go after them and I'll apologize for it. I'm not trying to spread that kind of nastiness. It depends. Some people, sometimes, but I have a limit. I try to do better. Let's read about Facebook's censorship board. CNBC says Facebook on Wednesday announced the first 20 members of its oversight board, an independent body that can overturn the company's own content moderation decisions. The oversight board will govern appeals from Facebook and Instagram users and questions from Facebook itself, although it admitted it will have to pick and choose which content moderation cases to take due to the sheer volume of them. So, okay, it's not really they're going to be choosing what to censor. They're going to be handling appeals. I actually kind of like the idea. The problem, I suppose, is trust. Who are they appointing, and can we trust these people to actually handle this? Or is this them trying to placate the people who feel like they're unjustly getting banned? The board will receive cases through a content management system that is linked to Facebook's own platforms. They will then discuss the case as a group before issuing a final decision on whether the content should be allowed to stay up or not. Facebook announced it was creating the independent board in November 2018, just after a report was published in the New York Times that detailed how the company avoided and deflected blame in the public conversation around its handling of Russian interference and other social network misuses. The members are a globally diverse group with lawyers, journalists, human rights advocates, and other academics. Between them, they are said to have expertise in areas such as digital rights, religious freedoms, conflicts between rights, content moderation, internet censorship, and civil rights. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to assume it's going to be a bunch of lefties. Notable members include Alan Rusbridger, former editor-in-chief of The Guardian newspaper. Okay, not promising to start. Andres Sajo, a former judge and VP of the European Court of Human Rights, and already off to a really bad start. Now, of course, I know you may say, hey, it's a journalist editor-in-chief. The Guardian is overtly biased, and Europe overwhelmingly is leftist. So I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm saying, well, they're biased, and that's going to be a problem. The board will begin hearing cases in the coming months. It will eventually have around 40 members, which Facebook will help pick. It's one thing to complain about content moderation and challenges involved. It's another thing to actually do something about it, said Jamal Green, co-chair of the board. These problems of content moderation really have been with us since the dawn of social media, and this is really a novel approach. The move could help Facebook avoid accusations of bias as it removes content deemed problematic. Some lawmakers and conservative speakers have said that Facebook censors politically conservative points of view, a claim the company rejects, but was first published by left-wing news outlet Gizmodo. So you can reject it all you want, Facebook. We know you're full of it. And that's why they're taking action, because they know it. It is our ambition and goal that Facebook not decide elections, not be a force for one point of view over another, but the same rules will apply to people of left, right, and center. Michael McConnell, another co-chair of the board, told reporters Wednesday. Sure, I'd like to believe that. I don't know if I do. Facebook pledged to give the board $130 million in funding last December, with the money expected to cover operational costs for at least 6 years. The board will be compensated an undisclosed amount for their time. Facebook in January outlined the board's bylaws, making it clear the social media giant is still in control. The board's decisions do not necessarily set any precedents that Facebook has to follow in the future, and the board is limited when it comes to content it can address. The board said it will publish transparency reports each year and monitor what Facebook has done with its recommendations. It will be very embarrassing to Facebook if they don't live up to their end of this, Thorning Schmidt, a co-chair, said. Brent Harris, Facebook Director of Global Affairs, said Facebook will implement the board's decisions unless they violate the law. All right, let's see who we got here. Do we have to worry about Facebook censorship? Before I even read it, of course you do. Academics tend to lean left, especially when it deals with, social psychology issues like that. And it's Facebook. I think Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg himself, probably is a bit more conservative, but they don't care. They want to make money. What do we got? Afia Asentewa, Asere Kyaye. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pronounce you wrong. I'm sorry for pronouncing your name wrong. Human rights advocate at the Open Society Initiative for West Africa. Not super familiar. We have this person who's from University of Oklahoma College, a law professor who formerly served as a senior U.S. State Department lawyer. Can't say much about that. Editor-in-chief of the Jakarta Post. Dean of the Universidad de los Andes Faculty of Law, wherever that is. Catherine Chen, communication from... So these are, honestly, I can't say too much about these organizations. We got a Columbia law professor, a U.S. Supreme Court advocate. We've got, who's this? Nobel Peace Prize laureate, named as one of history's most rebellious women by Time. I'm not sure this person should be on the board. I don't understand how that qualifies you to be on the board, but sure. What else we got? Human Rights Watch's Global Alliances and Partnerships Program. Oh, you better believe that's going to be biased. Vice Chancellor of the National Law School of India University. A lot of India. Rio de Janeiro University. Stanford Law Professor. Who's that? Michael McConnell, Facebook Oversight Board co-chair. Previously served as a federal circuit judge. I think it's Internet Sans Frontiers and Without Borders. Israeli Ministry of Justice. Editor-in-chief of The Guardian. Wonderful. European Court of Human Rights. Let's see, who's this? John Samples leads a libertarian think tank and writes extensively on social media and speech regulation. Well, libertarian, that sounds pretty good. You know what, man? I don't know what we can expect from this. Former Prime Minister of Denmark. Wow, that's impressive. But we know that many of these, look, the United States upholds freedom of speech more so than most other places, and therein lies the big problem. Why are we, as Americans, going to be held to a standard set by many people who aren't Americans? That's one of the problems brought up with their board. I fully believe that this is going to result in more censorship. Now, it's supposed to be an appeals process, but I think the battle's for the most part lost. Too many Republicans in government were too pathetic to actually deal with this, and now they will reap what they have sown, and so be it. Many of these people who are now expected to lose their Senate seats, in the near future, I don't know when, but potentially, will have nothing but themselves to blame. And to all of the conservative voters, I know many of you have demanded and screeched that this needs to be addressed. Some people have addressed some of it, but they haven't done enough. No bills drafted, no protections, no lawsuits. So you know what? I understand there are people fighting. I'm not saying no one's fighting. But here's my prediction. Over time, like staunch conservatives will be erased. We're going to see a potential future where the Republican Party becomes substantially more left-leaning and the Democrats move even further left, because you look at certain states, Texas turning blue and things like that. And the only opportunity then is for Republicans to adopt more moderate or leftist policy ideas, because that's what's happening because of social media, partly. Now, I don't know for sure. There's a good argument to say that because things have gotten so insane outside of social media, especially with the lockdown, that the lockdown is going to drive people to become more conservative. I can't say I know for sure. I can't make predictions. There are way too many variables. But I do think, and I've said this before, that Republicans face a serious threat because they are being erased from social media. You can call me biased. You can say I'm lying. You can say I'm pushing their talking point. But the fact is, the story has been repeatedly covered. There have been insiders who have come forward. We have documentation. And you're lying to yourself if you think otherwise. Far be it from me to tell you what to believe. You go do what you want. But the reality is the reality. If you don't want to address this and you don't want to call out the potential censorship that's coming, don't be surprised when your ideas get erased. But whatever, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you then.